Jake Morrison wiped his sweaty palms on his pants for the third time in 5 minutes. He stood in the waiting chamber outside the throne room of the Zephyrian Empire, trying to calm his racing heart. This was supposed to be a simple trip. Sign some papers about mineral rights in neutral space, shake a few hands or whatever aliens had instead of hands, and go home. But nothing about this situation felt simple anymore. The walls around him pulsed with soft blue light. Everything on this planet seemed to glow. The floors were made of crystal so clear that Jake could see down into the depths of the planet, where more lights flickered like distant stars. It was beautiful in a way that made him nervous. He was a diplomat from Earth's Interstellar Relations Bureau, but he had only been doing this job for 2 years. He was 32 years old and still felt like he was pretending to know what he was doing. The door opened without a sound. A Zephyrian guard stepped through. At least Jake thought it was a guard. The creature was tall, maybe 8 feet, with a body that looked like it was carved from living crystal. Light moved through it in rainbow patterns. It had too many limbs. Jake had stopped counting at 6. "The Queen will see you now," the guard said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes, musical and strange. Jake followed the guard into the throne room. His breath caught in his throat. The chamber was massive, with walls that curved up into a dome so high he could barely see the top. Everything glowed. The floor showed the planet's core far below, burning with golden light. Thousands of small lights floated in the air like fireflies. And at the far end of the room, on a throne that seemed to grow out of the floor itself, sat Queen Valara. She was enormous. At least 12 feet tall, maybe more. Her crystalline body was darker than the guard's, a deep purple that shifted to black in some places. Patterns of light moved across her surface like lightning trapped in stone. She had more limbs than Jake could count, and each one moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. On her head, or what Jake assumed was her head, sat a crown of pure light that hurt to look at directly. Jake Morrison of Earth. The Queen's voice filled the entire room. It didn't sound like she was speaking out loud. The words seemed to form inside his head. "You honor us with your presence." Jake bowed the way he had been taught. "The honor is mine, Your Majesty. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." He had prepared a whole speech about the trade agreement, about how Earth and the Zephyrian Empire could benefit from working together. But before he could start, the Queen raised one of her limbs. The gesture clearly meant stop. "We shall discuss business matters later," the Queen said. "First, there is something more important. I wish to introduce you to my daughter." Jake felt his stomach drop. This wasn't in the briefing. Dr. Harper, his friend and the ship's expert on alien cultures, hadn't mentioned anything about meeting the princess. A side door opened and another figure entered the throne room. Princess Lycia was smaller than her mother, perhaps 7 feet tall. Her crystalline body was lighter in color, a pale blue that reminded Jake of ice. Patterns of light moved across her surface in waves, pulsing in rhythm with what Jake guessed might be her heartbeat, if she had a heart. She had 12 limbs that moved like dancers, graceful and fluid. Her face, if it could be called a face, had no features Jake recognized. No eyes, no mouth. Just smooth crystal with lights moving beneath the surface. And around her body, thin, transparent wings spread out like a peacock's tail, each one glowing with its own color. Jake felt something cold wash over him. His human brain tried to process what he was seeing. Part of him recognized that by Zephyrian standards she was probably beautiful. The way she moved was graceful. The lights were mesmerizing. But another part of his brain, the old part that had kept humans alive for millions of years, was screaming danger. She looked like a spider made of glass and lightning. She looked like something from a nightmare. He tried to hide his reaction. He was a diplomat. He had been trained for this. But his face must have shown something because the throne room suddenly became very quiet. The floating lights dimmed slightly. "This is my daughter, Princess Lycia," the Queen said. Her voice had changed slightly. There was something in it now that Jake couldn't identify. "She is considered the most beautiful being in the known galaxy. Ambassadors from 100 worlds have come to admire her grace and splendor." Jake swallowed hard. He needed to say something. "She is very," he started, searching for words. His mind was blank. "Unique?" The Queen's lights flickered. That was not the right word. Jake could feel it. The princess moved closer. Jake forced himself to stand still. Every instinct in his body wanted to step back. Her lights pulsed faster, and he realized she might be nervous too. That thought helped somehow. "What do you think of my appearance, human?" the princess asked. Her voice was softer than her mother's, like gentle music. Jake opened his mouth. He needed to lie. Diplomacy was about making people feel good, about building bridges. But the words wouldn't come. He had never been good at lying. It was actually noted in his personnel file as a weakness. "You are very," he paused, "impressive. The lights in your body are fascinating. I've never seen anything like you." That was true, at least. But it wasn't what they wanted to hear. The queen rose from her throne. The movement was sudden and made Jake jump slightly. "You hesitate," the queen said. "You search for words. Every other ambassador who has stood before my daughter has immediately fallen to their knees in awe of her beauty. They compose poetry. They offer gifts. They beg for the honor of serving her. But you stand there and call her impressive." Jake felt sweat running down his back.
He had made a terrible mistake.
He could see his career ending. Worse, he could see the trade agreement falling apart. Earth needed those mineral rights. They needed this alliance. "I apologize, Your Majesty," Jake said quickly. "I meant no offense." "Your daughter is clearly," he stopped. The lie still wouldn't come. "Clearly what?" the queen demanded. The lights in the room had gone from soft blue to angry red. "Speak truthfully, human." "I command it." Jake took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. "She's far too beautiful," he said finally. The throne room went silent. Every light in the chamber froze. Even the floating fireflies stopped moving. The queen stared at him. "The princess made a sound like breaking glass. Too beautiful?" the queen repeated. Her voice was dangerous now. "Explain yourself." Jake knew he should stop talking, but he had already started down this path. "By human standards," he said carefully, "beauty is something we can process, something that makes us feel calm and happy. Your daughter is so far beyond that. My human brain doesn't know what to do with what I'm seeing. She's like looking at a star up close. Yes, it's beautiful. But it's also terrifying because it's so much more than my mind can handle." The queen's lights flashed through colors Jake had no names for. Guards appeared from doorways he hadn't noticed. The princess stood perfectly still, her lights pulsing in a pattern that looked confused. "You dare," the queen began. Then she stopped. She stared at Jake for a long moment. "Take him to the guest chambers. He is not to leave until I decide what to do with him. And send a message to his ship. Tell them their diplomat has created an incident that may cost them everything." The guest chambers were beautiful and completely wrong for a human. The bed was more of a vertical crystal slab than anything Jake would call a bed. The walls curved at angles that made his eyes hurt if he looked at them too long. Everything glowed with that same soft light that seemed to be everywhere on this planet. Jake sat on the floor because at least that was flat and tried not to panic. His communication device buzzed. He pulled it out quickly. The screen showed Commander Kate Phillips, his superior officer. She was on the Earth vessel Endeavour, currently in orbit around this planet. Her face on the screen looked tired and angry. "Morrison, what the hell did you do?" she said without greeting. "I just got a message from the Zephyrian government. They're talking about a diplomatic incident, something about insulting the princess." Jake rubbed his face with both hands. "I told them their princess was too beautiful," he said. There was a long silence. "You told them what?" He explained what had happened in the throne room. As he talked, he watched Commander Phillips's expression change from anger to confusion to something that might have been sympathy. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Jake," she said finally, "you know I put you on this mission because I thought you were ready, but I'm starting to wonder if I made a mistake." "I know," Jake said quietly. "I'm sorry. I just couldn't lie to them. Not when they demanded the truth." Commander Phillips sighed. "That's actually what worries me less. Earth's government is going crazy right now. This trade agreement is important. We need those mineral rights. Without them, half our colony ships can't be built. Do you understand what's at stake?" Jake nodded even though he felt sick to his stomach. "I understand. Hold on," Commander Phillips said. "I'm patching in Dr. Harper. He needs to explain something to you." The screen split. Dr. Ben Harper appeared on the other half. He was Jake's best friend on the ship, a xenobiologist who loved everything about alien cultures. Right now, he looked worried. "Jake, buddy," Harper said. "You really stepped in at this time." "Do you know what you did?" "I insulted the princess," Jake said. "It's worse than that," Harper said. "In Zephyrian culture, refusing to acknowledge beauty is like denying someone exists. It's one of the worst insults possible. Their entire social structure is built around recognizing and celebrating beauty in all its forms. When you said you couldn't appreciate the princess, you basically said she had no value. Jake felt even worse than before. But I didn't mean it that way. I tried to explain. I know, Harper said. And that's probably the only reason you're still alive. They recorded the whole thing. I've been watching it. You looked terrified, but you were trying to be honest. That might count for something. So what do I do now? Jake asked. You wait, Commander Phillips said. And you hope the Queen is merciful. I'm working on diplomatic channels from up here, but honestly, there's not much I can do. You're on their planet. Under their law, the screen went dark. Jake sat in the glowing room and wondered how badly he had ruined everything. He thought about the colony ships that wouldn't be built, the families that wouldn't get to start new lives on distant worlds, all because he couldn't lie convincingly about finding a giant crystal spider beautiful. He must have fallen asleep at some point because he woke up to the sound of the door opening. He jumped to his feet, heart racing. A figure stood in the doorway. It took him a moment to recognize her. Princess Lysia. The princess entered the room. Her lights were dimmer than before, pulsing slowly in shades of blue and green. She moved carefully as if she was trying not to scare him. Jake realized she probably was trying not to scare him. Don't be afraid, she said. Her voice was soft. I came to talk to you, not to harm you. Jake tried to relax. He failed. Your Highness, he said. I want to apologize for what I said in the throne room. I never meant to insult you. The princess was quiet for a moment. Her lights flickered in a pattern Jake was beginning to recognize as thought or consideration. That is why I am here, she said. I want to understand. What did you mean when you said I was too beautiful? Jake sat down on the floor again. The princess, after a moment, did something similar. She arranged her limbs in a way that lowered her height. It was clearly an attempt to seem less threatening. Jake appreciated the effort. Humans have a very specific idea of what beauty looks like, Jake began slowly. It's based on our own appearance. We like symmetry, familiar shapes, soft colors, things that don't trigger our danger instincts. And I trigger your danger instincts, the princess said. It wasn't a question. Jake nodded. I'm sorry, but yes. Your body shape is similar to creatures on Earth that are dangerous to us. Spiders, we call them. And the lights in your body are so bright and complex that my brain doesn't know how to process them. It's like staring at the sun. Yes, it's beautiful. But it also hurts. The princess's lights dimmed even more. I did not know, she said quietly. No one has ever told me this before. All the other ambassadors said I was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. They were probably lying, Jake said before he could stop himself. Then he winced, sorry, but yes, they were probably lying to be polite. Or because their species actually does find you beautiful. I don't know. The princess made a sound like wind chimes breaking. Show me, she said suddenly. Show me what humans find beautiful. Jake pulled out his communication device. He scrolled through his photos. Pictures of Earth, his family, places he had visited. He showed her mountains and oceans, sunsets and forests. He showed her pictures of people. His mother, his sister, friends from the academy. The princess leaned closer to look at the screen. Her lights pulsed faster. These beings, she said, they all look the same. How do you tell them apart? Jake almost laughed. They don't look the same to us. See, this is my mother. She has brown hair and blue eyes. This is my sister. She has red hair and green eyes. We can see thousands of small differences. But to me, they are almost identical, the princess said. So strange. She paused, then added, and this is what you find beautiful? These small, soft creatures with their flat colors? When you put it that way, it sounds boring, Jake admitted. But yes, this is beautiful to us. They sat in silence for a while. Jake showed her more pictures. Art from Earth, paintings and sculptures. Music performances. The princess watched everything with what seemed like fascination. I think I am beginning to understand, she said finally. Beauty is not universal. What speaks to one species means nothing to another, or worse, causes fear. Exactly, Jake said. He felt relief that she understood. Your Highness, can I ask you something? Ask, why did your mother want me to meet you? That wasn't normal for a trade negotiation, was it? The princess's lights changed color. A deeper blue. No, she said. It was not normal. My mother has been trying to find me a suitable mate. She brings every important visitor to meet me. She hopes one of them will be worthy of joining our royal family. Oh, Jake said. He hadn't expected that. So when I didn't fall all over myself praising your beauty, you rejected me, the princess finished. And you did it honestly. Most beings lie. They say beautiful things because they want power or wealth or status, but you told the truth even though it hurt you to do so. I'm not very good at lying, Jake admitted. That is a rare quality, the princess said. She stood up, her limbs unfolding. I must go before the guards notice I am here. But Jake Morrison of Earth, I want you to know something. You are the first being who has ever been honest with me about how I appear. I find that more valuable than 1,000 false compliments. She moved toward the door, then paused. My mother will summon you tomorrow. I do not know what she will decide, but I will speak on your behalf. After she left, Jake lay down on the floor. He still didn't know if he would see tomorrow, but somehow he felt better than he had since arriving on this planet. He had made a friend, even if that friend looked like his worst nightmare. Morning came, or at least what Jake assumed was morning. Time was hard to track on a planet where everything always glowed. Guards arrived at his door and escorted him back to the throne room. This time the chamber was packed with beings from dozens of different species. Jake saw creatures made of metal, things that floated in bubbles of water, entities that looked like living shadows. Every eye or sensor or whatever they used to see was focused on him. Queen Valara sat on her throne, even more imposing than before. Princess Lycia stood beside her. Jake tried to catch the princess's eye, but he couldn't tell if she was looking at him or not. He had no idea how to read Zephyrian expressions. In the back of the room on a large screen, Jake could see Commander Phillips and Dr. Harper watching from the Endeavor. They both looked tense. Jake's hands were shaking, so he clasped them behind his back. Jake Morrison of Earth. Queen Valara's voice filled the chamber. You stand accused of a grave insult to the crown princess of the Zephyrian Empire. You have declared that you cannot appreciate her beauty, which in our culture is a denial of her very existence. Jake's mouth went dry. The crowd around him stirred. He could hear whispers in languages he didn't understand. However, the queen continued. My daughter has spoken to me. She believes your words came from honest confusion rather than malice. She believes that humans simply cannot perceive beauty as we do. A murmur ran through the crowd. The queen raised one limb and silence fell immediately. This presents us with a question, the queen said. If humans cannot appreciate beauty beyond their own limited standards, are they truly ready to join the greater galactic community? Are they sophisticated enough to work alongside species so different from themselves? Jake felt his heart sink. This was worse than he thought. The queen wasn't just deciding his fate. She was deciding whether humans would be accepted among the stars. I could simply declare humans unworthy, the queen said. I could limit your species to basic trade and nothing more. But my daughter has convinced me to offer another option. The queen's lights pulsed bright purple. Jake Morrison, I offer you a challenge. You will visit 3 worlds within our empire. Each world is home to a species very different from your own. You must learn to appreciate the beauty of each species. You must prove that humans can grow beyond their limited perspectives. Jake blinked. That wasn't what he had expected at all. You want me to learn about other species? I want you to prove that humans can evolve their thinking, the queen said. If you succeed, the trade agreement will proceed. More than that, humanity will be welcomed as a full member of our alliance. Your species will have access to technology, knowledge, and friendship across the stars. And if I fail? Jake asked. If you fail, humans will be judged too primitive for close contact. You will be limited to basic commerce and nothing more. No alliances, no cultural exchange, no deep space exploration rights. Your species will remain isolated. The weight of the queen's words pressed down on Jake like a physical thing. She wasn't just talking about him anymore. She was talking about the entire future of humanity. Every person on Earth, every child who dreamed of the stars. Their fate was now in his hands. Before Jake could respond, Princess Lycia stepped forward. Mother, I request permission to accompany the human on his journey. The crowd gasped. Jake heard shocked voices in a dozen different languages. Even Queen Valara seemed surprised. Her lights flickered rapidly. You wish to travel with the human? The queen asked. Yes, the princess said. If we are asking him to learn about our way of seeing beauty, then I should learn about his. It should be an exchange. I want to understand how humans perceive the universe. Queen Valara was silent for a long moment. Her lights pulsed through colors Jake had never seen before. Finally she spoke. Very well. You may accompany him, but you will report to me regularly, and you will be protected at all times. On the screen, Commander Phillips spoke up. Your Majesty, if I may. I would like to send one of my crew members to accompany them as well. Dr. Ben Harper, our xenobiologist. He is an expert on alien cultures and can help Jake understand what he encounters. The Queen considered this. And a security officer, she said. Lieutenant Ryan Cole will represent Earth's military interests. 4 travelers then, 2 humans and my daughter with a Zephyrian guardian. This is acceptable. Jake watched as arrangements were made around him. He felt like he was in a dream. Just yesterday he had been a simple diplomat on a routine mission. Now he was being sent across the galaxy to determine humanity's future, and he would be traveling with a princess who terrified him every time he looked at her. You depart in 2 hours, the Queen announced. My ship, the Luminous Wanderer, will take you to the First World, Melodia, home of the Soundweavers. She looked directly at Jake. Do not fail, human. Too much depends on your success. The crowd began to disperse. Jake stood alone for a moment, trying to process everything. Dr. Harper's face appeared on his communication device. Jake, buddy, are you okay? Harper asked. I don't know, Jake said honestly. This is insane, Ben. I'm not qualified for this. I'm just a regular diplomat. I've only been doing this job for 2 years. That's exactly why you might succeed, Harper said. You're not so stuck in your ways that you can't learn. And Jake, I'll be with you. We'll figure this out together. Jake felt a little better. At least he would have his friend with him. What do you know about Melodia? Not much, Harper admitted. The Melodians are famous for their music. They communicate entirely through sound. No visual language at all. They're supposed to be one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy. And what do they look like? That's the thing, Harper said slowly. They don't really look like anything. They're kind of amorphous. Like living jelly. No eyes, no limbs, no features we would recognize. Great, Jake muttered. So I have to find living jelly beautiful. Not beautiful to look at, Harper said. Beautiful to listen to. That's what the Queen is testing, Jake. She wants to see if you can find beauty in ways that don't involve sight. If you can appreciate something that has nothing to do with human standards. Jake thought about that. It made sense. The Queen wasn't asking him to lie and say alien creatures looked pretty. She was asking him to expand his definition of beauty itself. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the docking bay of the Luminous Wanderer. The ship was beautiful in the same way everything Zephyrian was beautiful. It glowed with inner light and curved in ways that seemed impossible. Dr. Harper stood beside him carrying a bag full of equipment. Lieutenant Ryan Cole, a tall woman with short black hair and sharp eyes, checked her weapons for the 3rd time. Princess Lycia arrived with her guardian, a massive Zephyrian warrior named Crix. The guardian was even bigger than the Queen, covered in dark red crystal with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. He carried weapons that Jake didn't recognize and looked like he could tear through metal with his bare limbs. The princess approached Jake. Her lights were a soft green. Are you ready, Jake Morrison? No, Jake said honestly, but I don't think I have a choice. The princess made a sound like gentle wind chimes. That is the wisest thing I have heard you say. Come. Melodia awaits. As the ship lifted off, Jake looked out the window at Crystalis Prime falling away below them. He thought about Earth, about his mother and sister, about all the people depending on him. He had no idea if he could do what the Queen asked. But he was going to try. He had to. The alternative was too terrible to consider. Melodia was unlike any planet Jake had ever imagined. The entire surface was covered in what looked like massive speakers and resonance chambers. Structures rose from the ground in smooth curves designed to carry sound. The air itself seemed to vibrate with music. And everywhere moving through the streets and buildings were the Melodians. Dr. Harper had been right. They looked like living jelly, translucent blobs that shifted and flowed as they moved. Some were small, about the size of a basketball. Others were huge, spreading across entire courtyards. They had no eyes, no mouths, no features at all. Just smooth surfaces that rippled and pulsed. Jake's first instinct was disappointment. How was he supposed to find beauty in something that looked like a puddle? Then one of them made a sound. It started as a low hum that Jake felt in his chest. The hum rose and fell, building into something complex and beautiful. Other Melodians joined in, their bodies vibrating to create harmonies. The sound wrapped around Jake like a warm blanket. It was the most beautiful music he had ever heard. They are greeting us, Princess Lycia said. Her own body was resonating slightly, responding to the Melodian song. They welcome us to their world. The group was led to a massive amphitheater carved into the side of a mountain. Thousands of Melodians gathered there of all sizes and shades. A guide approached them, a medium-sized Melodian that pulsed with a soft blue glow. "Welcome," the Melodian sang. The words formed in Jake's mind, carried by the vibrations. "We are honored to host the human who seeks to understand beauty. Tonight we perform our greatest symphony. We hope it will speak to your heart." As the sun set, the performance began. The Melodians didn't have instruments. They were the instruments. Each one vibrated their entire body to create notes. Some produced deep bass sounds that shook the ground. Others created high, clear tones like bells. Together they wove a symphony so complex and beautiful that Jake found tears running down his face. He glanced at his companions. Dr. Harper sat with his eyes closed, a smile on his face. Lieutenant Cole had her hand over her heart. Even Crix, the fierce Zephyrian warrior, had his lights pulsing in time with the music. Princess Lycia sat beside Jake, her entire body glowing bright with emotion. After the performance, Jake stood on shaking legs. The guide approached him. "Did you hear our beauty, human?" "Yes," Jake said, and he meant it. "I heard it, I felt it. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced." The Melodian pulsed with pleasure. "You understand, then? Beauty is not always something you see. Sometimes it is something you hear, something you feel in your soul." That night back on the ship, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the music. He had always loved Earth music, but he had never thought of it as the same kind of beauty as a sunset or a painting. Now he understood. Music was invisible beauty. It existed in time and vibration, not in light and form. Princess Lycia found him sitting in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "May I join you?" she asked. "Please," Jake said. He had gotten used to her presence. She still looked terrifying, but he was learning to see past that. "I have been listening to the Earth music you showed me," the princess said. "The symphony by the composer Mozart. I think I am beginning to understand what you meant about human beauty. It is small and contained, but there is depth to it. Emotion." "That's exactly it," Jake said, surprised. "You're learning to hear beauty the way humans do, and you are learning to hear it the way others do," the princess replied. "Perhaps we are both growing." The next world was Verdantia, a planet covered entirely in plants. But these were not normal plants. They were the Verdantians themselves. Living, thinking, moving beings made of leaves and vines and flowers. They grew and changed constantly, never staying one shape for long. Jake watched as a Verdantian elder transformed before his eyes. It started as a mass of thick vines coiled around a central trunk. As it spoke to them, it grew flowers in dozens of colors. The flowers bloomed and died within minutes, replaced by new ones. Leaves unfurled and fell away. Branches extended and retracted. "We do not have one form," the elder explained. Its voice was like rustling leaves. "We are always becoming. This is our beauty, the beauty of change and growth and transformation." The Verdantians took them to witness a life cycle ceremony. Dozens of young Verdantians gathered in a clearing. As the group watched, the young ones began to grow rapidly. They changed from small seedlings into massive trees in the span of an hour. Flowers bloomed across their surfaces in waves of color. Some grew fruit that fell and sprouted new life immediately. Others sent out vines that intertwined with their neighbors, creating living networks. "It's like watching time-lapse photography," Dr. Harper whispered. "But in real time, this is incredible." Jake struggled with this one. The constant change made him uncomfortable. He wanted things to stay still so he could understand them, but as he watched, something clicked. He thought about watching his sister's children grow up. He thought about seasons changing on Earth. He thought about how a flower blooming was beautiful precisely because it didn't last. "I think I understand," he said to the elder. "Beauty doesn't have to be permanent. The fact that things change and grow, that's beautiful too. Nothing lasts forever, and that makes the moment more precious." The elder grew a crown of bright red flowers. "You begin to see with wiser eyes, human." That evening, Princess Lycia showed Jake something she had created. It was a holographic display of Earth's 4 seasons, drawn from the images he had shared with her. She had arranged them in a flowing sequence that showed the endless cycle of change. "Your world is more like Verdantia than I realized," she said. "You have this same beauty of transformation, spring to summer to fall to winter, always changing, always becoming something new." Jake stared at the display. He had never thought of seasons that way before. But she was right. Earth was constantly changing, and that change was part of what made it beautiful. The third world was the hardest. Nocturne existed in eternal darkness. Its sun had died long ago, leaving only a cold world lit by the faint light of distant stars. The Nocturni were beings made of shadow. They existed in the spaces between light. They had no solid form that Jake could see. They were absences, negative spaces, silhouettes against the dark. "This is impossible," Jake said to Dr. Harper. "How am I supposed to find beauty in something I can't even see properly?" Harper adjusted his scanner, frowning. "I'm having the same problem. My equipment can barely detect them. They're more concept than matter." Lieutenant Cole surprised them both by speaking up. "It's like tactical planning," she said. "When I'm planning a mission, the most important thing isn't what I can see. It's what I can anticipate. The beauty of a good strategy is in the negative space, in what doesn't happen because you planned well." Jake turned to look at her. "Say that again." "Beauty isn't always in what you see directly," Cole said. "Sometimes it's in anticipation, in suggestion, in knowing something is there even if you can't perceive it clearly." A Nocturni elder approached them. It was barely visible, just a darker patch of darkness. "You struggle, human. This is natural. Your species relies heavily on sight. But consider this. What is more beautiful? The thunder or the silence after? The lightning or the darkness it illuminates? Sometimes beauty is found not in the thing itself, but in its absence." Jake thought about that for a long time. He thought about negative space in art, about the silence between musical notes, about the moment of anticipation before something wonderful happened. He thought about closing his eyes and feeling the warmth of the sun, beautiful precisely because he couldn't see it. "I think I'm starting to understand," he said slowly. "Beauty isn't just about what we can directly perceive. It's about what we feel and understand and anticipate. It's about the spaces between things as much as the things themselves." The Nocturni elder seemed pleased, though Jake couldn't actually tell. "You have grown much, Jake Morrison of Earth. When you arrived on Melodia, you sought beauty only in what you could see. Now you understand that beauty exists in sound, in change, and even in darkness. You have expanded your mind." As they returned to the luminous wanderer for the journey back to Chrysalis Prime, Jake realized something important. He looked at Princess Lysia. With her crystalline body and too many limbs and lights that moved in patterns he couldn't predict, she still triggered his danger instincts. She still looked nothing like what humans found beautiful. But now when he looked at her, he also saw someone who had been patient with him. Someone who had taken time to understand his perspective. Someone who was learning and growing alongside him. And that, he realized, was its own kind of beauty. The throne room was even more crowded than before. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled every available space. Jake recognized some of the species now. Melodians hummed softly in one corner. Verdantians grew and shifted against the walls. Even a few Nocturni lurked in the shadows, and everywhere creatures he had never seen before watched with whatever senses they possessed. Commander Phillips and the crew of the Endeavor watched from orbit again. Earth's government had sent additional diplomats who crowded around other screens. Jake could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about humanity's place among the stars. Queen Valara sat on her throne, as imposing as ever. Her lights pulsed in colors Jake had learned meant curiosity and judgment. Princess Lysia stood beside her mother, but she glanced at Jake. Her lights flickered in what Jake now recognized as encouragement. "Jake Morrison of Earth," the Queen's voice filled the chamber. "You have completed your journey to 3 worlds. You have witnessed the beauty of the Melodians, the Verdantians, and the Nocturni. Now you stand before this assembly to report what you have learned. Speak truthfully. The future of your species depends on your words." Jake took a deep breath. His hands weren't shaking this time. He had spent the entire journey back preparing for this moment. But now that he was here, he realized he didn't need a prepared speech. He just needed to tell the truth. "Your Majesty," Jake began, "when I first arrived on your world, I made a terrible mistake. I judged beauty using only human standards. I looked at Princess Lysia and saw something that frightened me because it was so different from what I knew. I was wrong. Not about what I saw, but about thinking that what I saw was the only truth." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The room was completely silent. On Melodia, I learned that beauty doesn't have to be visual. The Melodians showed me that sound can be just as beautiful as any sunset. They taught me that beauty exists in vibration and harmony. That sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones you feel in your heart, rather than see with your eyes. The Melodians in the corner hummed softly in approval. On Verdantia, Jake continued, I learned that beauty doesn't have to be permanent. The Verdantians are always changing, always growing, always becoming something new. They taught me that transformation itself is beautiful, that the fact that nothing lasts forever makes each moment more precious. The Verdantians rustled their leaves, blooming flowers in celebration. And on Nocturne, Jake said quietly, the Nocturne taught me the hardest lesson of all, that beauty can exist in absence, in darkness, in the spaces between things, that sometimes what you don't see is just as important as what you do see. They taught me that beauty is as much about understanding as it is about perception. He turned to face Princess Lycia directly. Your Highness, when I first saw you, all I could see was something that looked dangerous, something my primitive human brain told me to fear. And I have to be honest, you still look that way to me. My biology hasn't changed. The room stirred. Voices murmured in concern, but Jake held up his hand. But he continued, I now understand that my biology is limited. My eyes can only see a tiny fraction of what exists. My brain can only process beauty in certain narrow ways. The Melodians showed me that I was limiting myself by relying only on sight. The Verdantians showed me that I was limiting myself by wanting things to stay the same. The Nocturni showed me that I was limiting myself by thinking beauty had to be obvious and direct. He looked around the room at all the assembled species. So when I look at you now, Princess Lycia, I still see something that my human eyes find frightening. But I also see someone who has been patient with me, someone who took time to understand my perspective even though it made no sense to her, someone who has been learning alongside me, growing and changing. And that person, that being who cares about understanding and connection, is beautiful in a way that has nothing to do with appearance. Princess Lycia's lights pulsed bright with emotion. Colors rippled across her crystalline form in patterns Jake was beginning to understand. Jake turned back to the Queen. Your Majesty, you asked me if humans are ready to join the galactic community. I can't speak for all humans, but I can tell you what I've learned. True beauty isn't about appearance, it's about courage. The courage to be yourself. The wisdom to respect others even when they're completely different from you. The willingness to grow beyond your limitations. And the ability to form genuine connections based on understanding rather than judgment. He stood up straighter. I still can't look at your daughter and find her beautiful the way I find a human beautiful. But I can now understand that beauty exists in forms beyond what my eyes can process. I can appreciate the music of the Melodians, the transformation of the Verdantians, and the mystery of the Nocturni. And most importantly, I can see the beauty and friendship that transcends physical form. Queen Valara was silent for a long moment. Her lights cycled through dozens of colors. The entire room held its breath. Finally, she spoke. Jake Morrison, when I sent you on this journey, I was testing you, but I was also testing my daughter, and I was testing my own assumptions. The Queen rose from her throne. I have ruled this empire for 300 years. In that time, I have met thousands of ambassadors from hundreds of worlds. Every single one of them looked at my daughter and immediately declared her beautiful. They composed poetry. They offered gifts. They fell over themselves to gain favor. She moved closer to Jake, and I hated every single one of them, because I knew they were lying. Oh, some of them might have genuinely found her beautiful by their standards, but most were simply saying what they thought I wanted to hear. They saw an opportunity for power and they took it. Jake felt his heart racing. He wasn't sure where this was going. Then you arrived, the Queen continued. A young human diplomat who couldn't lie to save his life. You looked at my daughter and you were terrified, and you were honest about it. That honesty was more valuable than 1,000 false compliments. Princess Lycia stepped forward. Mother, may I speak? The Queen nodded. Jake Morrison has given me something no one else ever has, the princess said. He has given me friendship based on truth. He still finds my appearance frightening. But he respects me as a person. He has taken time to understand me. He has shared his culture with me and learned about mine. And he has never once lied to make me feel better. Her lights pulsed brighter. Mother, you have always told me that the most valuable treasure is honesty. Jake Morrison has been honest even when it hurt him, even when it cost him everything. That is true beauty. The beauty of integrity, Queen Valara turned to address the entire assembly. Let it be known throughout the galaxy humanity has passed the test. Not because Jake Morrison learned to lie, not because he learned to see beauty as we see it, but because he learned to look beyond his limitations while remaining true to himself. He has proven that humans have the capacity for growth, understanding, and genuine connection. The room erupted in sounds from 100 different species. Melodians hummed. Verdantians rustled. Crystalline beings chimed. It took Jake a moment to realize they were celebrating. The trade agreement is approved, the Queen announced. More than that, humanity is welcomed as a full member of the Zephyrian Alliance. You will have access to our technology, our knowledge, and our friendship on the screens. Jake could see Commander Phillips and the Earth diplomats cheering. Dr. Harper was actually crying. Lieutenant Cole had the biggest smile Jake had ever seen on her usually serious face. But there is one more thing, the Queen said. My daughter has requested a new position. She wishes to become the first ambassador of interspecies understanding. Her role will be to help different species learn to appreciate each other's perspectives. And she has requested that Jake Morrison serve as her human counterpart in this role. Jake looked at Princess Lycia in surprise. She made the wind chime sound that he had learned was her version of laughter. Did you think I would let you return to boring diplomatic work after all this? We have much more to learn from each other. I would be honored, Your Highness, Jake said. And he meant it. Later, after all the formal ceremonies were complete, Jake stood with Princess Lycia in one of the palace gardens. The garden was filled with plants from dozens of worlds. Some looked familiar. Others were completely alien. But together they created something beautiful. Your mother was testing us both, wasn't she? Jake said. Yes, the princess admitted. She wanted to see if I could look beyond appearance to value honesty, and she wanted to see if you could learn to appreciate beauty in forms you didn't understand. We both passed. Jake looked at her. He still saw the crystalline body and too many limbs. He still saw something his human brain wanted to fear. But now, he also saw a friend. Someone he respected, someone he cared about. Can I tell you something? Jake asked. Always, she said. I still think you're terrifying to look at, he said honestly. But you're also one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Not because of how you look, but because of who you are. Your kindness, your patience, your curiosity, your wisdom. That kind of beauty matters more than any physical appearance ever could. Princess Lysia's lights pulsed in patterns Jake recognized as deep emotion. Jake Morrison, she said softly. That is the greatest compliment anyone has ever given me. All my life beings have praised